Welcome back to Between the Silos, where we talk about sales and marketing alignment and why so many companies struggle with it. I'm your host, Jen Lawrence, CEO at Vi, and today we're tackling a big topic that holds a lot of mystery around it for many marketers. If you guessed HubSpot, you're correct. Joining me is Jessica Crosby, our Director of Digital Marketing here at Vi. Jessica leads our paid media, digital marketing, and data automations teams. So if it's measurable or helps move a lead through the funnel, her team is behind it. She's been working in HubSpot for nearly a decade and has seen the platform evolve from a marketing tool to a full-blown growth engine. Welcome, Jess.
Thanks for having me, Jen. Excited to chat with you and talk through some of these topics.
Yeah, all things HubSpot. So here we go. Today we're going to talk about some of the ways that businesses could be using HubSpot but might not know about. Like so many things, right? All the things. And I know you've got a story to kick us off, but maybe you can start telling the listeners a little bit about HubSpot. What is it for anyone that's not familiar?
Yeah, absolutely. So, at its core, HubSpot is a customer platform that brings marketing, sales, service, and operation into one place. I think most people think of it as a marketing automation tool, and it is, but it's really involved into something much bigger, and they put so much work into evolving the tool to compete with some of those more enterprise platforms like your Salesforces, your Marketos of the current landscape. So, but in all, at its core, it's trying to help businesses attract leads, engage with prospects, close deals, support customers, all while keeping your data connected across teams. So what's great is that it's built with usability in mind too. So whether you're a marketer or a salesperson, it's designed to actually work for you and not just be another system to manage.
What does that mean? Expand on that a little bit if you would, because it's a great point, and I'm sure you like we said when we kicked off, like how you've seen it evolve. But talk a little bit about that, how it's built for you more so.
Yeah, and I would say it's really built for teams to be able to use it. I think a lot of systems, like when you think of Salesforce, you think of having to have an architect that helps you build out certain reports or build out certain interfaces, or there's always kind of this like custom aspect to it, with some out of the box function, obviously, that's part of it. But HubSpot really does have a lot of out of the box functionality that doesn't require a ton of custom work. You can use it kind of the day that you purchase it, obviously keeping in mind that there's probably some systems and processes that you want to build out. But from a usability perspective, it's easy to navigate. It's not overly complex, and it's intuitive in the sense of where you should go. So there's things like the sales workspace that's HubSpot's built out, where it's kind of everything a salesperson would need to kind of run their day, check their emails, check on deals and where they're at, see if there's any tasks that they need to follow up on or complete. So they're kind of creating this solution in mind with the way that, maybe a sales team member or a customer service rep might run their day in a way that they can kind of live within one screen without having to click too many times to get to where they need to go. So I think that's the thing that's setting HubSpot apart from a lot of other CRMs, of just that usability that they keep in mind with everything, every product release or new feature, so on and so forth.
Such great context. Yes, I see that so often. We'll run into clients with different systems, and it's so difficult to use that like people don't use it, but they'll invest millions in it. And then it's so complicated that they just like don't want to use it. And I think HubSpot is like the anti of that, right? Like they make it so easy. And we work with clients that have never been in a CRM or everything is on paper, and they can even pick it up pretty quickly. So yeah, I think that's an important thing to hit on right there.
Absolutely.
So that's obviously helpful. Then moving into, businesses that underutilize or maybe misuse HubSpot. So which, leading into our tales from the trenches here. Tell me about a time you've seen a company hesitate to switch to HubSpot and what happened when they finally made the move.
Oh man, what business hasn't been hesitant to adopt a new platform or system? So I think this is kind of a commonality across a lot of businesses I've seen, and there's, I don't know, definitely more than a handful of businesses that have been hesitant to adopt HubSpot or, just any CRM in general. And I think their biggest hurdles are typically like concerns of user adoption, downtime, like how much time it takes for them to actually get set up in the portal, and then stakeholder buy-in. Those are probably three of the most common scenarios that I find when businesses are hesitant to adopt a CRM. And I think once they move and actually kind of commit to that decision to say, we're going to adopt this CRM and this is going to be our go-to system, we're going to live and breathe in it, they end up getting deeper insights into their CRM. They have really streamlined handoffs between teams, marketing to sales, and they have easier attribution and ROI measurements. I mean, we kind of went through this with a window manufacturing client recently, and I think the thing that I appreciate about that scenario is that it really was coming from like the topmost stakeholder possible, the CEO, to say, we are living in this tool, we are breathing in it. And adoption has been, I think these are like a group of users that aren't used to any like this high, I would guess, this level of technology. And so there is some like slower adoption there just from kind of like rethinking or reworking their workflow in a lot of ways. So it's not necessarily on one side or the other, but just kind of introducing like a new workflow or new process for them. But we've seen them gradually really adopt the system, and it's come from constant and consistent usage, constantly kind of like pushing teams back to say, hey, like, did you check HubSpot? Did you update this with HubSpot? So it's, like I said, it's, not just one business, not just one tale. It's been many a tales. These like same hurdles and I think realizations that they've had once they're actually in the system.
Yeah, I totally agree. And when you talked about, the adoption, downtime, buy-in, like yes to all of those. And then you talked about workflow, and that's actually what I see a lot is companies are kind of like they're at this crossroads of like, if we got a new CRM, how much untangling or undoing in our process, in our system, in our deal pipeline, in our stages, in our naming. Like, I think that's where people get tripped up, is that is so overwhelming to think about what they have versus what they want, and that gap is so big. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think you hit the nail on the head with that too, because I think what I see a lot of teams get wrapped up on is focusing on all of those things when in reality, like there's really probably for a sales team member, and I mean, marketing is probably a little bit more flexed and fluid, but for a sales team member or customer service member, like your day to day is not going to look a whole lot different. It's just kind of helping teams understand here's where you go to do this. And then you're going to log in and click this button. And then you're going to, respond here in this chat. And so it's helping teams as you're working through setting up a system, kind of create these workflows of when I log in, here's the first thing that I do, and here's where I go to do that thing. And then it's going to kick off these next set of actions that I need to take. Because I think a lot of the times where we see issues with adoption is because people have tried to learn or teach the whole system to a team, when in reality, it's kind of about drilling down and focusing on the things that they absolutely need to do. And once they get in a good place and a good rhythm, then you can maybe expand and add on, this process or this feature. And so, yeah, I think it's kind of focusing in on what matters most. And you said something else that was really interesting, Jen, that I resonated with, of just, these folks are, when they're adopting a new CRM, they're also adopting a whole new process, not just like their day-to-day, what their day-to-day looks like, but what does your customer success process look like? What does your sales process look like? And that I think it can be scary because it can feel like a lot that you're biting off. But I think it's also an opportunity for businesses to streamline things, cut out the clutter, really focus on the touch points that matter with your customers, and kind of build that workflow and that day-to-day around what that sales process is and what you want the sales process to be and what it should be too. So that was, I think, you just kind of triggered something in my mind, and I will step down off of my just Oh my gosh, my soapbox.
Well, we see it. We see it all the time. So I think you answered a lot of these, but why isn't it easier then? Like we see it often where we know companies are struggling and they're doing it in an old way, or they want to be more sophisticated and they either can't choose a CRM or a CMS, and like why is that so hard?
I mean, there's a lot of things going on. The most common trend that I see, I guess the two most, well, there's actually a couple, let's be honest. There's like leadership buy-in is big. People have messy data and they're afraid to touch it, which I don't blame them. Right people in the right seats. You have some people who are really good at certain kind of aspects of the business or aspects of like a team and, running or supporting a team. But maybe they fall short in others. And so, having adaptability and cross-functional team members is really key. Too much noise, kind of like what we were talking about. Maybe they're trying to learn too much, or they have this like we'll get to it later mindset. And they have a lack of focus that can often stall momentum. Like maybe they get too tunnel vision on one thing versus kind of taking a step back to really see everything. And then I would say the last probably really big thing is just team misalignment and having too many cooks in the kitchen. We've seen this with, I mean, again, many tales of businesses where they just don't have the right people in the seats. And then that kind of leads into this team misalignment of, what marketing sees it should be, it should happen this way, or sales sees it should happen this way. Maybe they have multiple people who are updating HubSpot, or multiple system owners who are owning like one system that's integrating with HubSpot and vice versa. And they're just not really aligned with what are the things that should happen at each stage from marketing to sales to CX. So it's really kind of, it's taking a step back to really understand which of these issues are standing in your way to adopt the CRM and move forward. And being, I think, comfortable and in acknowledging that and figuring out what the path looks like. And we've helped support a lot of clients in these conversations with their team and with their leadership team to kind of help them navigate these situations because they're not always easy.
Absolutely. Two of them, you said lack of leadership buy-in, messy data. I think, right people, right seat, all of those make sense. And I think the two that stuck out to me, in addition to that, sort of parallel to that, I suppose, is I see a lot of people, they're so afraid to make the wrong decision because it is a big decision, right? Where is all of your data going to live, and what system is everyone going to live in? And then the other one is like that number of systems and how people want it laid out perfectly. You and I were on with a prospect, and they sort of like want no risk and they want everything documented before you start, which, as we know, isn't possible. You kind of have to, you can do a lot of documentation, you can do a lot of mapping, and you can do a lot of how you want it to be. But then there's the reality of when you set it up and you integrate systems and you're syncing information, that you can't be so paralyzed by perfection and the wrong decision that you never move forward. And that is, I think, what we see a lot of times too, is people are just like, do the entire mapping on a spreadsheet before we get to it. And then it's again so big and so complicated, and you still can't promise you're not going to run into anything.
Oh yeah, totally. I mean, I mean, anytime data is at play, there's always going to be something that you uncover that you had no idea about until you got knee deep into it. And that's, to your point, like you have to just get started. It's funny. I was just at a conference and there was a speaker there and her whole thing was, why not now? And I think that that's a great way to think about this, is why not now? It's not going to get any better anytime soon. And whether or not you make the right decision or the wrong decision, like there's ways to fix it or move forward or adapt and continue to kind of work towards a better, way.
Yeah, absolutely. And to your point, like fix it. Like there's almost always a fix. And it might not look what you thought it was going to look like, but there's almost always a version of that. But yeah, but you kind of have to be willing to do your due diligence,
Yep.
understand what you need, understand what, natively works and doesn't work, but then you kind of have to take the leap after that and just say, okay, this is where we're going, and we're going to stay in lockstep and iterate when we need to. Otherwise, yeah, you're just adding more bad data to a very broken system, which is going to make the undo just way more difficult.
Yeah. And, the more that you kind of spin on it and the more that you try to, as the kids say, suss out all of Oh my God, I can't believe I said that. If you try to mitigate all of the risk, you end up pulling in too many people, and you end up just like putting yourself in this spiral of never actually starting the project because you're trying to find the perfect solution. And like we've been saying, there is no perfect solution, and it's going to adapt, and you're going to have to change. And what it looks like when you first plan it out to, what that integration or what that CRM adoption or onboarding looks like at the end is going to look vastly different. And it's because I think there's a beauty in that too, because it allows you to change your mind too. Like if you decide, let's take a sales process, for example, if you decide halfway through it, you're like, I actually don't want us to go through a demo call. I don't want us to spend our time doing X, Y, and Z, or, I don't want to spend our time creating this crazy presentation deck and we're going to skip this stage altogether. I think it kind of allows you to start fresh and really think of the touch points again that are going to make the most sense for your customer. Because that's really, at the end of the day, you're building the CRM and the system to create a better customer journey. And so that's, I think, the biggest thing to keep in mind. And of course, obviously, track revenue, make sure you're earning. Those are also important, but yeah.
Yeah, and finding somebody that can help walk you through that journey, I think, is an important thing, because you're not going to know it all, and you're not going to catch it all.
Totally.
Okay, finally, I think we beat that one to death. Hot seat. Tell me, Kindle, paper book, or hardcover books?
I would say sometimes Kindle, sometimes paperback when I'm missing a fresh paper smell.
But never a hardcover book? Oh, well, okay, sometimes.
No, I'm shooting myself in the foot here a little bit because I really wanted to get this book the other day and they only had it in a hardcover version. So here I am with a hardcover on my desk. So
yeah, so that just that impact, right? It's so heavy. I do sometimes love it too, though.
Yeah, for sure.
Fake house plants or the real deal?
I always got to go real deal. I am all about feng shui, and we know that dead plants do not vibe with feng shui.
Oh, I really wish I could get into that, but I think I'm just too lazy to water them. Sorry. I don't know.
Well, let's be honest. I'm like withholding the information that sometimes my plants don't last long. So there's that.
Just rebuying real. Got it. Okay, good enough. Okay, 2 more. Netflix or go for a walk after work?
Well, your girl's got a walking pad underneath your desk, so we're going to go walk it out.
Walk it out, yep. I feel you. Okay, last one. Your dogs bark through an entire meeting, or there's a 3-second delay every time you try to talk.
I mean, I feel like you've been on enough calls with me to know. Dogs barking through the entire meeting, but mostly it's entirely self-inflicted because we have an Amazon codependency. So
right, and your dogs love them. So yes, definitely heard them. But
yeah, we're just supporting our codependency and letting us know every time there's a package there.
Right, for sure. Awesome. Well, Jess, thank you so much for joining today. It's been great having you with us. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Jen.
And for all the listeners out there, make sure to hit the subscribe button so you always know when a new episode lands. Until then, don't forget, the best things to happen to your team will always happen between the silos.